What is going on, everyone? Welcome to another very exciting episode right here on the MIgardener channel. In today's episode, as you can see, we're going to be starting seeds. There's definitely no question about it. I've got all my seeds spread out. I got my tags, I got my flats with soil here. So we're definitely starting seeds. But that's not what we're going to be talking about today. You see, seed starting hasn't changed for us in 9-10 years. Yes, the methods have kind of changed here and there, but you can see that kind of progression of change throughout our year's videos, and you can find something that works best for you. But the actual act of starting seeds, nothing has really changed. So we're not going to talk about how to start seeds in this episode. I have something very important that I want to talk about while we're starting our seeds. And it's something that a lot of you have voiced both interest and concern for. And so I wanted to bring that topic to the forefront and kind of direct all of you that are new to this channel. Welcome, by the way. I'm sorry that you're probably here because you're worried for your food security and your family's safety. But I'm glad that you're here because this is a great place to be. We talk all about growing food, how to do it on a small scale, how to grow more food in less space, and how to do it inexpensively so that you're actually saving money and putting healthier food on your family's table in the process. So you're in a good place. Don't worry. But I'm going to direct all of you that were hoping that was going to be today's video to a series that we did about 2 or 3 years ago called Back to Basics. The information is exactly the same on how to start your seeds, when to start your seeds, things like that. So what I want to talk about as I plant up this my garden is I want to talk about plants that you can be growing, or the amount of plants that you can be growing to feed a single person in your family. Now, a lot of you have asked this, and that's why we're doing this, is because a lot of you want food security, and there's no set time that you guys. Some people want food security for a couple weeks. Some of you want food security for a couple months. Others want food security for a whole year. So what I've done is I've basically gone off national averages for the U.S. for a whole year of vegetables. So again, this is an average. There will be some that eat less. There will be some that eat more. There will also be other areas of the world and even areas of the U.S. where this varies. The meat and potatoes region of America is a lot different than California, where it's like the avocado capital of the world. So I'm not saying that this is going to be just cut and dry, but this is the best numbers that I can go off of. And I've converted them over into either square footage of plants you need to grow or a per plant basis that you need to grow in order to reach this national average. I'm leaving it up to you to realize that this is for a full year. So this is consumption for a full year. If you are only looking for 3 months, divide it by 4. Do things like that because obviously everyone is different, and I can only go off of a certain amount of metrics before it begins to be a 10-hour video. So so we don't want that. So let's get started here. And as I'm going to start my tomatoes, we're going to talk about tomatoes. So according to the national average for tomatoes, you should be growing about 4 plants per person. Now, how that's broken down is based on things like ketchup, spaghetti sauce, pizza sauce, raw tomatoes. There's a lot of different variables within tomatoes. And so depending on what you're eating, again, that's just the average is about 20 pounds. When it comes to onions, you're going to want to plant about 30 plants per person. That will yield about 20 pounds of onions. Yes, I was shocked. I was actually really shocked. I mean, I know our household really likes onions, but I didn't know the national average also really liked onions. Onions are something that kind of are very polarizing. You either love them or you hate them. But yeah, 20 pounds of onions. So that's going to be about 30 plants. Now, the plants that I would suggest when it comes to onions are obviously make sure that you're growing the right type of onion for your area, long day versus short day. We have a growing guide on how to grow onions, by the way. And so it'll kind of give you more information. But try to grow onions that are going to be larger. Also try to grow onions not only that are larger, but also have a higher sulfur content. Sweet onions do not store as long. So if you're looking for a long shelf life onion, a good long storage onion, grow something like a red burgundy onion. Grow something like a ruby red onion. Grow something like a red Weathersfield onion. Red is typically a fairly spicy onion. You also have things like the Utah yellow or the white sweet Spanish onion, which isn't so sweet. It can be sweet, but it tends to be pretty spicy. The next one is leaf lettuce. Now, I omitted things like head lettuce, like iceberg or romaine, and that's because Americans eat obscene amounts of iceberg, and it's not really nutritious. It doesn't provide a whole lot of nutritional sustenance, and so there are, like 2 or 3 pounds a year of iceberg lettuce. But when it comes to leaf lettuce, the national average is 13 pounds. So 13 pounds in a year. Again, if you really like salads, you're going to want to scale that up. If you want to, if you don't like salad as much, I would still encourage you to eat leafy greens, but maybe scale that down. And that correlates to about 20 square feet per person. So where I get that is essentially I take 20 square feet and I say, if I can take 20 square feet and plant it all out, I'm going to have a huge burst of lettuce, but a lot of it's going to go to waste. So what I'd prefer you to do is start 5 square feet, 5 square feet, 5 square feet, 5 square feet. Start them in successions, and that way you're harvesting basically all year long, or most of the year. And then you can, then you can get a longer prolonged harvest where you're not just getting a huge burst of lettuce and then it's going to waste. You're going to get a longer harvest, and you're going to be able to reach those 13 pounds no problem at all. We do it every year, and it's not a problem. It's super easy to do. The next thing are peppers. When it comes to peppers, we're looking at 5 plants per person, or about 12 pounds. Now, this actually also surprised me. This is pretty high for peppers. I probably eat maybe close to 10, 12 pounds of peppers in a year, but seems like a lot. But that's the national average. So that correlates to about 5 plants per person. And that's also assuming you're growing something that's moderate in size. If you're growing big, blocky bell peppers, they're kind of lightweight, but they are bigger. So I kind of averaged that out to like right around a little bit over 2 pounds per plant. Obviously, some plants yield more, some plants yield less. But for bell peppers and what we usually get here in Michigan, that's kind of what I'm going off of. So it's about 5 plants per person. Now, when it comes to carrots, you need there's 1 plant in 1 square inch. So a plant every square inch. You can get about 12 plants per square foot. And so the average, to feed 1 person in your house for a whole year, you're going to need to grow about 10 square feet of onions. Now that seems like not that much, but that's because carrots are very space efficient. Yes, one seed does yield one plant, but you can plant them very closely together, and that's going to yield roughly 9 pounds of carrots. Cucumbers. So the average person is going to need to plant about 3 to 5 plants. Now, 3 plants if you're planting like a slicing cucumber, and 5 plants if you're growing a pickling cucumber. And that's going to correlate to about 8 pounds of cucumbers in a given year. Now that also relates to things like pickles as well as fresh eating. And obviously if you're growing a full year, you're going to have to put some of those cucumbers away because it's hard to grow cucumbers in the middle of winter. It's impossible, actually, unless of course you're growing them downstairs. Sweet corn. So sweet corn is 50 plants per person. And mind you, it's really hard to look off this and do this at the same time. So I'll plant these in a little bit. It's really important I get this information out to you guys. So when it comes to sweet corn, you're going to need about 50 plants per person. And that's because you need about 7 pounds minus the cob. The cob weight is nothing. There's some nutritional benefit to it. You can make like corn cob jelly and things like that. Would recommend using every part of the plant also to expand on your food security. But when it comes to corn, they're talking about just the kernel weight, and that's 7 pounds. So you're gonna need about 50 plants roughly per person. With things like broccoli, you're looking at about 12 pounds in a year, and that's about 10 plants per person. It's actually not that hard to do, and it's really not that bad. Obviously, some more, some less. Get it? Celery. This one is really interesting. So you can grow 10 square feet of cutting celery. That's where I take celery. I would take celery and I would just sprinkle it in a row, almost like I would like my lettuce or leafy greens, things like that. As it grows, I'm going to cut the tops and it's going to continue to grow. Cut and come again. You only need about 10 square feet to yield 5 pounds over the course of that year. However, if you're growing plants, it's only about 7 plants. So again, that's based on your needs, but some of these crops, you have to remember that some of these crops you can't grow all year round. So you're gonna need to freeze some, you're obviously gonna eat some fresh, but it correlates to about 7 plants. Zucchini. 2 plants. 2 plants is all you need. And that's why I love high productive crops like tomatoes and zucchinis and cucumbers, peppers, things like that. You don't need that many plants. They don't take that much space. If you're growing 2 zucchini plants, that's about 6 square feet. That's really not that bad. You know, when you look at the square footage these plants take up and how much food they can produce, you don't need that much. And that will yield roughly about 6 pounds. Some more, some less. If you let them get like newborn baby size, obviously you're going to get a lot of zucchinis out of that. Where this national average is coming from are from the little dinky ones. Those little dinky ones is that's their weight that they're going off of. So you're going to need about 2 plants. With winter squash, like butternut squash, acorn squash, things like that, you're looking at 3 plants totaling 8 pounds. Obviously, some will yield more than others, but the weight still remains the same. It's just 8 pounds. And I love winter squash because winter squash, they're very nutritious. They last a super long time. We're talking like 5-6 months if you keep them cold and in like really cold storage. So definitely a great one for overwinter. Garlic. Now you can't really plant garlic right now because you can, but you don't get the best results. The best thing to do is to plant it in the fall. But I still added garlic in here because all you need is about 12 plants. 12 heads of garlic is enough for a full year's supply of garlic. For our house, probably not so much, but that correlates to roughly about 4 pounds, which also surprises me because 4 pounds of garlic seems like a lot, but if you add that over 365 days, it's actually not all that much. But garlic is super good for you, and you should definitely eat more of it. Spinach, 10 square feet is going to feed a person for a whole year, all about 3 pounds. Now, what you don't want to do is you don't want to grow it all at once. A lot like the lettuce, you want to grow in succession. And a quick side note about spinach is you can freeze some of these things. So spinach is a great one that you can saute, or not saute, but you can wilt down and then freeze. So those are that's something you can really implement to increase your food security. Asparagus, 4 plants, 4 fully mature plants is about all you're going to need to feed a person for a year. And that's about 2 pounds. Now, if they're less mature, you're going to need to about double that because at a fully mature size, you're going to average roughly about 1/2 pound per plant. So just keep that in mind. With eggplants. Now, again, obviously, if you were in India where eggplants are eaten pretty much as a mainstay in their diet, like in baba ganoush, which we love, by the way, it's a great way to use eggplant. It's not as consumed over here. So take that with a grain of salt. But you only need about 2 plants to feed a person for a year based on the national averages. It's about 2 pounds. And obviously that's talking about low yielding eggplants, slender, slim, small eggplants. If you're growing bigger eggplants, obviously you could probably get by with like 1 plant. But I would always encourage you to eat more foods of color because they're going to be more nutritious for you. Now, radishes, this is crazy. All you need to do to feed a single person for a whole year is 6 square feet. 6 square feet. I love radishes. You can plant them pretty much all year. They're gonna be a very fast turnaround crop. Despite them being a cool weather crop, you can still grow them even in like early summer. And the only part you're gonna have some trouble is gonna be like mid to like the middle to the end of summer where it's the hottest. After that, you can actually start growing it again. So there's only about 1.5 months, 2 months where you can't grow radishes. And that correlates to about 2 pounds of radishes. All right, we're getting near the end here. So thank you for hanging with me. This is so important. I'm really glad I've been able to get this out to you guys. It took me most of the morning to do all the calculations. That's the longest part. Beets. So when it comes to beets, obviously you do have a benefit. This is a bonus thing here. You get to grow some leafy greens for the beet greens, they're not calculated into this equation, but they're like leafy greens. But you need about 10 square feet, about 6 plants per square foot to yield 4 pounds of beets, which is the national average for consumption in the US for a single person. So again, you're gonna get some bonus beet greens from that. And I recommend growing beets because they're high in iron, they're super good for your blood, they're super nutritious, they last a long time. You can keep them in the ground over winter, just cover them with some leaves, pull them as you need them, but also you can pickle them and store them that way as well. Kale. Now, I love kale. As baby greens in our salads and stuff, they can't be beat. They're so delicious. Sauteed, thrown in smoothies, juices, they have a lot of different uses. We probably eat more than this, but the national average for a single person really comes out to about 4 plants. 4 mature plants if you're harvesting full leaves, or 10 plants for baby greens, and that yields about 2 pounds. If you're only eating 2 pounds of kale in a year, you probably should be eating more. I'm not a doctor, but I would say you probably should be eating more. And that's the way with a lot of these greens, honestly. A lot of these greens kind of reflect the standard American diet, sadly. So I would personally, if it were me, I personally would up these by probably double. But I'm just going off the averages because I realize I'm speaking to a wide variety of people. And so when it comes to green beans are another super productive crop. They produce a ton, and you don't need that many plants to feed a person for a whole year because you can freeze them, can them, eat them fresh, things like that. You're looking at 15 plants. 15 plants that will produce about 4 pounds of beans. So that's a great one. Love that. Then dry beans. This really shows the difference in kind of space requirements required to grow a crop. For dry beans, things like soup beans, we did them last year. Really productive, but you need a lot of beans because you're not harvesting the pods, you're harvesting the seeds inside. That's about 50 plants to yield the average of 6 pounds. So that's things like garbanzo beans, chili beans like kidney, black beans, pinto beans, things like that. 6 pounds is the average. Again, we definitely eat way more than that. I would say, especially if you're vegetarian, like I was kind of alluding to, there's different style diets. We eat more of a vegetarian style diet. And so I would say we eat probably close to 20 pounds of beans per person in a year. We eat a lot of beans. I also want to include strawberry plants because strawberry plants are super low maintenance. They take up very little space, but they're very productive, and strawberries were included in the national averages for fruits, and that's 25 plants. 25 plants will give you about 5 pounds of strawberries. Now again, we eat way more than 5 pounds of strawberries, but again, this is just national averages. And then the final one that I wanted to touch on were potatoes. This one is something that is very skewed, much like tomatoes, because potatoes can be mashed, they can be boiled, they can be fried, there's a ton of uses for potatoes. They even considered potato starch in this category. So when you're looking at just potato products in general, the average consumption in a year for a single person is 50 pounds. And so I can buy a 50-pound bag of potatoes at our local grocery store all in one fell swoop. It just shocks me that it's 50 pounds. I would say our usual consumption is like mashed or like boiled or baked, things like that. Whole form potatoes, where you're gonna get maximum nutritional benefit. You're gonna get all the potassium and the fiber from the skins and things like that. I recommend using those in your cooking rather than frying them and things like that. But 50 pounds, and that correlates to about 12 to 18 plants, which is a totally easy thing for you to do. All of these crops I have grown. All of them I have growing guides on. Literally every single one I have growing guides on, so you can see how to grow them. And I recommend trying to grow as much as you can. Obviously, if you can't get all of these crops in, grow the things that you're gonna eat the most of. Grow the things that are gonna have the biggest benefit to food security. Potatoes are pretty cheap. You can buy potatoes pretty much anywhere. Obviously, I'm gonna try to grow as much as I can for my own family, so I am gonna grow some potatoes. But things like corn, I'm not gonna grow corn because I don't have enough space for 150 plants. Just no way in the world do I have that much space. So especially when one plant takes up about 8 to 10 inches, that's a lot of space for a single plant. So I just don't have that much space, so I'm gonna be buying my corn from a local farmer. Nothing wrong with that. If you have resources, I recommend using those. What this guide is really intended for is to kind of show you how much you need to be growing to get you away completely from the grocery store. Now, this is also not indicative of everyone, like I said. I want to reiterate that for like the 100th time. So this is for a single mature adult, not a child, but an adult in the US. So take that for what it's worth. Calculate it up or down depending on your needs. And yeah, so there you go. I'm going to get the rest of these plants started because that was too difficult to bounce back and forth for my brain to handle. So I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you learned something new. As always, this is Luke from the MIgardener channel reminding you to grow big or go home. Go get your seeds started. You can find them all over at MIgardener.com. You can also find, we also have strawberries, raspberries, blackberries, and asparagus this year, brand new to MIgardener.com. You can go check out our website to pre-order those. We're going to be shipping those hopefully in the coming weeks. But I hope you guys enjoyed. I really hope that you guys learned something new. If you did, make sure to throw a like up there. And we'll catch you all later. See ya. Bye.